Sahil, welcome to the podcast. It's great having you here.
Well, thanks for having me. It means a lot, and I appreciate the hype intro.
Well deserved. Boy, 1 million followers on X and 6,000 followers on Instagram. So you're doing some good work on X. X is where a lot of bad things happen, but you are trying to be a force for good there, aren't you?
Yeah, when I got started on X, I guess it was Twitter back then. I still can't knock
Yeah.
the habit of calling it Twitter, by the way. It was very educational and I would say more like welcoming and educational community
Yeah.
than I find it to be today. Make of that what you will. It might be that we just had a presidential election, so a lot of the content has sort of skewed towards that. Maybe it's the ownership, but I really just focused on finding ways to create value for other people. And I have always just found in my own life that if you act in the service of others, you receive the best things in return. And I took that approach. So like I started spending a lot of time just as a weekend project. Like I was stuck at home during COVID. I was working a day job 80, 90 hours a week as an investor, and I found that I was really enjoying writing. And so I started spending more and more time on it. People were finding value in the things I was sharing, so I kept doing it. And fast forward a few years, and here we are.
Yeah, you are. I mean, you're just a fantastic writer, and you're the impact you're having on others is really, really clear. Before we get into talking about your brand new book, congratulations, by the way, The Five Types of Wealth. What is it that caused you to get into that writing and putting more time and effort there? What was going on in your life during that time?
I think my life was probably similar in some ways to a lot of people's lives, which was May 2020. If you recall, the world was mostly shut down from COVID and the pandemic that had just started. And so, I basically found myself in a world for the first time in 7 years that my career had been running where I had time, like free time on my hands. I wasn't commuting into the office every day. I wasn't traveling 3, 4 days a week. I wasn't, kind of constantly moving from thing to thing. And I just like had all this new time. And my thought at the moment was like, what do I do with that? Like I want to do something that feels valuable, productive, energy creating for me. It can't just be that I'm like going to sit around and, veg out and watch Netflix. And so what I did was I like went back to my roots. And I had always loved writing from the time I was young. I come from a family that really prized writing. My dad is a professor, has written a number of books. My mom is a great short story writer. My grandmother was a great storyteller. And so I just
Mm.
started thinking that like that was pulling me and followed my energy in that way. And so I started filling that free time with writing. And as I said, it was like a lens towards creating value for other people. And if you create value, you receive value in return in some way. So that was really what sort of initially caused me to lean into writing. That was May of 2020. And I did that for about a year before a series of more unfortunate events led to my decision to kind of drop everything I was doing and go all in on.
It's great. Well, if a follow up on that, then that when you're looking at doing what you did, having a very, very successful career, cranking out grinding in those 70, 80 hour weeks, was there a defining moment for you that you said, you know what? No, there has to be something different.
Yeah, so I spent the first like really 30 years of my life really making decisions on the basis of trying to sound impressive to other people. I was fairly insecure. I had convinced myself that I wasn't all that smart, or at least not up to the standards that I felt like my family had set. My older sister was like the smart one in my mind, and I was the athletic one. I played baseball my whole life. And I was marching down this path, and every decision that I made, if I go and look back at it, was sort of in an attempt to receive the external affirmations that would make me one day feel like I had made it. Make me feel that, like, oh, enough people are telling me that I'm great, that I will feel great internally. And what you learn with age and maturity is that you can't fix an internal problem with an external solution. That doesn't work. It never works in life. It's an internal issue. But I only know that now with the benefit of hindsight. In the moment, I kept making these decisions that were basically to try to seem successful, to try to feel successful. And so from a career standpoint, what that meant was that I just tried to make money. And like a lot of people, I sort of measured my success and my happiness and my worth on the basis of a financial scorecard. and feeling like, okay, if eventually if I made enough money, I would wake up one morning and feel like I did it. I made it. I'm
Yes.
happy. I'm in the land of happiness and perfection and no stress. And I finally feel like I'm worthy. And as I continued to march down that path and made more and more money, and outside looking in, you would have said I was successful. I was winning the game. I was doing the right things. Internally, everything was slowly falling apart. And my health was really suffering. I was drinking way too often. My mental health was suffering. My relationship with my wife was suffering from my lack of presence. My relationship with my parents, who I was never seeing, with my sister, who I had sort of a tense competitive relationship with. All these other things in my life were slowly falling apart, while from the outside looking in, I was more successful than ever before. And I had one interaction with an old friend in May of 2021 that really like knocked me off my feet. I went out for a drink with this old friend, and we sat down, and he asked how I was doing. And I said, I'm good, busy. Like the standard fair response of just like,
Right. I've
yeah,
said that before.
whatever, I'm good. And he
Yeah.
kind of looked at me and saw right through it and asked again, how are you doing? And I said it was getting hard living so far away from my parents who were getting older, who lived on the East Coast. We lived in California at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, how old are they? I said, mid 60s. And he said, how often do you see them? And I said, about once a year. And he looked at me and just said, okay, so you're going to see them 15 more times before they die. And I remember just feeling like I had gotten punched in the gut. I mean, the idea that the number of moments that you have left with some people that are so connected to you, that are so close to you, is countable, is so finite. Like on a few hands, you can count those number of moments.
That's right.
Was just a massive shock to the system and an immediate recalibration and like pull you back to center moment of what really matters. And I woke up the next morning and I just said to my wife, I think we need to make a change. And God bless her, she was willing. And within 45 days, I had left my job. We had sold our house in California and moved back to the East Coast to be closer to our parents.
So, Sahil, that's a huge decision to say the least. But I mean, looking back on it, would you have done anything differently? Because speaking for myself and the most of the people listening, there is no way that they would take that type of a move. And maybe a better question is, why did you do it? That is extreme.
Yeah, there were a number of things that I think had been pointing me in that direction without really recognizing it. And the conversation with the friend was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will. All of those areas of my life that were really suffering at the time were sort of that like the little nick, and recognizing that something needed to change. That like if I kept living the way I was living, I was going to wake up in 30 or 40 years and wonder what I just did. The life that I just lived wasn't my life. It wasn't what I wanted. At the time, my wife and I had been trying to conceive and struggling to do so, unfortunately, for about a year. And I don't know if there are any listeners out there that have dealt with that, but it is something very solitary. And it is a burden that I think typically women feel they need to put on their back, rightfully or wrongfully. And I wasn't there for my wife in the way that I needed to be during that period because of the things I was wrestling with. I wasn't there to help carry that burden. And frankly, in hindsight, it was probably more my burden just given my internal state. And it was the most beautiful thing in the world because we made the change in our lives. We moved back to the East Coast. And 2 weeks after getting back to the East Coast, my wife got pregnant with our son. And it's just this reminder that like when your energy comes into alignment, everything falls into place as it should. So sometimes you need to take the dramatic change. And as scary as it is, it's like you jump out of the plane and hope that you pack the parachute.
That's true. Well, I love that. I mean, it's a great example how you rejected the default path that many of us are on and what society deems as success and wealth. And that probably leads into your, let's talk about your new book. It is called, let me get this right. I got to get it right. Yeah. It's called The 5 Types of Wealth, a Transformative Guide to Design Your Dream Life. There it is. And at the end of the podcast, everybody, we've got a book giveaway to talk about. So stay tuned on that. But so Sahil, what was the reason, the motivation for writing this book? Why right now?
It was really a manifestation of my journey. I mean, the journey that we started when we made that big change was one to reject that default. The cultural default scoreboard of saying that money determines your worth and that it's the focus, right? Like Peter Drucker said that what gets measured gets managed. And that's this idea that like what you can easily measure becomes the thing that you try to optimize around. And for all of us, money is the thing that is so easily measured that it becomes our standard definition of success. And what it means to have a successful life is to make a lot of money. And we sort of internally know that's not right. We've seen too many like rich, miserable people. I mean, like the Forbes top 10 richest people in the world have 13 divorces among them, among the 10 people. And how many of them have, how many really wealthy people have no relationship with their children? Like there's just all of these things that we sort of know, but we've never had a way to articulate it. And the journey that I went on after I left, after I like stepped off this like very lucrative, safe, stable track to go and build my own thing, to go and discover, was to redefine what wealth, what success meant to me, and to then go build a life around those things, and to go build a life around those new priorities that I was going to define. And I went everywhere. I mean, I read everything I could get my hands on, old ancient wisdom to like new self-help books. I went and met with people of all walks of life all around the world. I mean, had thousands of conversations over several years. And what I came to was this book. This is the output of that entire journey, of that like real journey of my life, was that we need a new scoreboard. We need a better way to measure what wealthy life looks like. And it goes so far beyond money. And what I say in the book is that your wealthy life may involve money. It will involve money, but it will be defined by everything else. And that is the other types of wealth here. It's your time. It's your social wealth, your relationships, your connections with people. It's your mental wealth, purpose, meaning, growth, space. It's your physical wealth, how you feel, your health and vitality, your ability to control those things. And then, yes, financial wealth, money. But the important point is that you can't define your life around one single thing and then myopically focus on it. We need to find ways to build and balance these different types of wealth across the different seasons of our life and what we go through. And having that clarity as you go on the journey, when you're making decisions, when you're designing your future, when you're looking at your life, is really, really important.
Great. Well said. It's a much needed perspective. I have to give you some feedback. I've been following you for a few years now, and I really appreciate your perspective and how you just talk about being a dad and what that means to you, and then what you want that relationship to be in different seasons. I'm sure you hear that a lot, but I'm a dad. All my kids are out of the house, and I hope that stays that way. But your perspective on it is, I think, very wise for a guy your age. So I just want to give you that feedback. It's a really needed perspective. For those who aren't following Sahil yet on Instagram or on X, Twitter, you'll definitely see that. So Sahil, I cut you off there. You had something there.
No, I mean, I appreciate that. Look, one of my missions in life is to inspire more men out there to really lean into and take pride in their relationship with their children and in being a father, and for those who aren't yet, to get excited about the idea. There's this like, I get messages from people every single day saying like, oh, I never really thought I wanted kids. I thought it would interfere with my journey or like making money or whatever. And seeing your videos with your son makes me excited, for the day that I get to be a dad. And I can't think of something that makes me feel more proud than that, because I think about my own relationship with my father and how close I feel to him and how proud I am of him. And I mean, I think of my dad as my best friend to this day. And I probably don't articulate that to him enough, but that relationship, like that idea of having a kid who wants to hang out with you when they're an adult. Yes. I think that cuts through the noise of almost every decision that you can make in your life. Like if my end goal, my definition of success is that my son wants to hang out with me when he's 25, I will make the right decisions in the present. because it means I'll prioritize him, my wife. It means I'll be around them. It means that he will see me work hard on things that I care about because that's going to be an important facet of his life. It means that I won't do things that compromise my integrity or my character because I want him to respect me and love me. It means I'll treat people right. It means I'll try to do things that are mission and purpose and meaning creating for me because that matters for the relationship and for him to be proud of me when we're older. So all of those things, I feel like, like life is actually quite simple, and yet we insist on making it complicated. And with some of these things, there's just like this beautiful simplicity that comes with that one idea. And that's one of them, is like, just be an adult that your kid is going to be proud of someday.
I love everything about that. You were sharing that. It reminds me of my dad. He's 85. And, the relationship I've had with my dad, when you're younger, he's like this, he's your hero. And then when you become a teenager, right, you think you know everything, and you realize your parents have faults and flaws, and they're human. And then when you're in your early 20s, you realize they're wise again. And that's when I look at my dad, too, as my best friend. He's so thankful he's here. And I don't tell him that enough. I don't tell him that enough.
Yeah, even just like, excuse me, even just articulating that, I recognized, like, I don't say that to him. And it's a shame that I say it on a podcast and then not to him. So I need to like get off this and let him know.
Same here. So here's our first challenge of the podcast for everyone who still has their dad on this earth. There's your challenge right there.
Yeah, let him know you appreciate him.
Absolutely. Okay, so Sahil, so let's talk about these 5 types of wealth. You brought it up. Let's get into this though. Time, social, mental, physical, and financial. By the way, is there one of those 5 that you're the most passionate about that we should start with? I've got some follow-up questions, but I don't want to hog the agenda.
Well, they all feed into each other. And a lot of this is like a circle or like sort of building a stack. And, I referenced the concept of seasons earlier. It's a really important central concept at the outset of the book, which is that your life has seasons. And what you prioritize and focus on during any one season can change. So you may have seasons where you are entirely focused on setting yourself up from a financial foundation perspective. In your 20s, it's actually a great time to do that. You may have seasons when you want to focus on being a dad or being a mom. You may have seasons when you really want to focus on your health. And you can do that with the knowledge that there are more seasons to come. And the important point, and what I try to get across in the book, is that these things, these 5 types of wealth, they do not exist on an on-off switch, which is what society wants to tell you. People want to tell you, hey, if you're going to focus on money, you have to shut off your relationships, your health, all these other areas. Everything in life exists on a dimmer switch. Everything in life is just on a dimmer switch that you can turn up and you can turn down. And the important point there is recognizing that even if you have a switch turned down, you can still do a couple of things that are high leverage, that don't take a lot of time, that will continue to compound that thing forward. It won't allow it to atrophy. So with relationships, you may not be in a season where you can spend time with 1 million people, but you certainly have time to send the text to the person when you are thinking about them. You certainly have time to get together with one person for a 15 or 30-minute coffee, to send the text to your dad, to call your parents to let them know that you care about them. It may not be the central focus of your life in that window, but it's not turned off. Because allowing these things to get turned off means that they may never be able to get turned back on. And that is the thing that I want people to really take away and avoid in their life, because we fill our lives with these ideas of later, right? Like the road to success is filled with laters. You say, I'm going to spend time with my kids later. I'm going to enjoy myself more later. I'm going to focus on my health later. I'm going to do all these things later. The reality is that later is just another word for never, because those things are not going to exist in the same way later. Your kids are not going to be 8 years old later. They're going to be grown up. They're going to have their own lives. Your health is not going to be the same later because you've gotten older and challenges have started to hit. You can't just all of a sudden wake up one day and have a life and work of enjoyment and fun. You need to design those things into your life now, otherwise they won't be there later. The later will never come.
Another great point. On this podcast, we talk a lot about getting out of your comfort zone and dare to take action. We're not here on this earth forever. In late 2022, I know you interviewed a group of 80 and 90-year-olds, and you asked them what advice they would give to their younger selves. What were some of the most powerful parts of that advice that you heard from them?
Let's see, I have a few favorites. One of them was an older woman who said, "Never fear sadness because it tends to sit right next to love." And there's such a powerful idea there that so much of life dances on this razor's edge where the thing that you really want sits right next to the thing that is so painful on the other side. They're like, it's like a tax. Like the sadness is like a tax on the joy and the upside that you get from loving someone. You cannot have that joy without exposing yourself to the sadness. And I think about that in so many areas of life now. Like so many of these things that we really want sit right next to the really painful thing that we have to endure to get it, or that we have to be
So true.
willing. So that one has really stuck with me. Another one was a man who said, treat your body like a house you're going to have to live in for the next 70 years. And he had unfortunately not done that and had really felt the pain of it. And so was reflecting on that, of that he wished he had taken his health more seriously. He had spent too much time drinking, not exercising, not moving, eating badly, and it had come back to him in a painful way. And I think it's a good, helpful framing. Like your body is literally a house you have to live in, and you can make the daily investments in that house, build the solid foundation, do the simple daily things, make the minor repairs along the way. All of those things stack and compound positively over time. And then the last one that has just stuck with me the most was an older man who had lost his wife and said, "Say I love you to the person every night before going to bed, because someday you're going to look and the person's not going to be there." Uh, that one, I mean, it's every time I
Yeah.
think about it, it makes me emotional because we often, and it relates to time wealth and my whole journey, we, when you're young especially, think that life is infinite and you think you're immortal, and that the people in your life will be around forever. Uh, and as you get older, I'm not that old. I'm 33 years old, but I've already had the, handful of smacks back to reality now of people that I cared about being lost suddenly and over longer periods of time. And when you realize that and you come to terms with that, there's a certain beauty in how you live your life in the present, which is you don't take those people for granted and you don't consider it permanent. And appreciating the impermanence and the finite nature of your life, it allows you to live in vivid color when you start to appreciate this. I have this quote in the book from this movie Troy, which is one of my favorite movies, where Achilles, the main character, played by Brad Pitt, just said that the gods envy us because we are mortal. And he says that things are made so much more beautiful by the fact that we are not here forever, that we are doomed. And I totally agree. Like the reality of that is our impermanence and the finite nature makes life much more beautiful, but only if you actually embrace it and only if you recognize it and you take action to recognize the fact that we are all here for a short window of time, and that those people need to know that you love them.
Yeah. That reminds me, just yesterday, dear friends of mine lost their 28-year-old son. And so I was at the funeral, and it was a celebration of his life. One of those, just an example that we all have, everyone listening, of you get this jolt, this reminder that we're not here forever. And then we forget. We start drifting. We go on default mode again. I mean, that's part of what I think what your book is helping to address.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, I write about I write about this in the book. I'm so sorry for your friend's loss. It's incomprehensible. I write about this in the book that like every time someone experiences a tragedy like that, uh, there's a light from the end, like from the other side, that shines. And it's like when someone experiences a near-death experience, they often say that they have this newfound clarity on their life. And you and I can read that story. We can hear this tragedy that some family experiences. And it's basically like their light is shining onto your path where you are today. It's telling you something like embrace the present, be there for those people, love them. And most of us, and most people listening, and most people that read my book have that light because the stories are told in here. Like I share so many stories from real people that have experienced that tragic, experienced that thing that has shocked them. And most of us will see that light, it'll shine on our path, we'll nod our heads, we'll say, oh my God, incredible. And then we'll go back living the exact same damn way we were before.
that's right.
And The only thing that I want everyone to do when they listen to this, when they read the book, when they do any of this, just take one action. It doesn't matter what the action is, but do one thing to change the way that you live. One tiny thing. It literally could be that you decide you're going to text one friend every single day to let them know you were thinking about them. Or you're going to call your parents once a week instead of never. Or you're going to walk for 30 minutes a day to get a little bit more movement. Whatever the one thing is, just take one action. Because life, when you have this huge wall in front of you, people just do nothing because they're like, oh, it's too intimidating for me to get through this. But if you just do one thing that you can control today, you'll be slightly better off tomorrow. If you just make one change, it creates momentum for you to start scaling that wall. And when someone shines that light onto your path, don't reject it. Don't go back to living the way you were. Really embrace the light and start walking into it.
It's very good. I think I am taking that one to heart right there. Thank you for that. Hey, Sahil, I want to talk to you about some of the specific types of wealth. So time wealth. You talk about a time billionaire. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite concepts from the book. It was originally a term that was created by a man named Graham Duncan, who's a well-known investor who, when I spoke to him, talked about the fact that he had interviewed thousands of young people for jobs at his firm. And what he recognized was that they all want to become billionaires. Like, that's their goal. They all just say they want to become billionaires. And the thought that he had was that they are all billionaires in one sense, which is in time. When you are 20 years old, you on average probably have about 2 billion seconds left in your life. A billion seconds is about 30 years. So at 20, you have about 60 years left, say 2 billion seconds. At 50, you got a billion seconds left. You are quite literally a time billionaire. But what he noticed, and what is very true, is that most people don't relate to themselves in that way. In other words, they don't think about the fact that their time is their most precious asset. And it's so, so valuable. And the way that I bring this to life is like asking the question, would you trade lives with Warren Buffett? And you go ask this to people. Warren Buffett has $130 billion. He can do anything he wants to in the world, meet with anyone, whatever, all of these things. But you would not trade lives with him because he's 95 years old. And you would never trade your remaining years for the number of remaining years that he has. You wouldn't. And similarly, he would probably trade all of his money for the amount of time that you have. So you vividly bring to life the fact that your time has hundreds of billions of dollars of value to it. And yet, you're spending time and doing things on a daily basis that are spitting on that. You're not relating to yourself as a time billionaire. You're not using your time wisely, spending it with the people that you care about that light you up, on the things that light you up and create energy in your life. You're not doing that. And so what it is it's a call to action, to recognize that it's impermanent, that it's finite, and that you are so rich in time. And you need to treat it that way. You need to invest that time wisely.
It's good. Yeah, I never thought about that concept before, but you're so right. I mean, I would never trade that in a heartbeat or for all the money in the world, right? So
No,
great concept.
And it's a broader point in all this, right? Like if you came and offered me $100 million to come work for the next 5 years, in the old scoreboard where money is the only thing that I'm measuring, that sounds like a hell yes opportunity, right? You're going to pay me $100 million for 5 years? Like, sounds great. Let me go do that. But now, take a step back. And now I tell you that you have to work 90 hours a week for the next 5 years, traveling 300 days out of the year, and working on something you hate. Okay. Well, now, using the 5 types of wealth, like using this framework, I can think about this a little bit more clearly. I'm going to have a big, big bump in my financial wealth, but all of the other areas are taking a huge hit, right? Like my time, I'm going to be working so much. My social wealth, that's the relationship with my family, with my friends. I'm going to be gone 300 days out of the year. I'm not going to see my kid for the next 5 years during this window when he is like, when we're really in it together. I'm going to have my physical wealth take a hit. My mental wealth is taking a hit because I'm working on things I hate. Suddenly, like this opportunity, absolutely not. There's no way you could get me to go do that. And that is a really important point because it's what you're recognizing is that, okay, now that I'm thinking about the scoreboard a little bit differently, I can weigh these options a little bit differently. I may still choose to take the offer depending on where I'm at in life and what my priorities are, but I have weighed it in a much more balanced fashion to think about the problem at hand.
It's good. So this book, I think, what hit me, Sahil, is that it's perfect for a new graduate, for someone who's starting a career, kind of that corporate midlife warrior, someone who's nearing retirement. These are the issues that we all wrestle with. This applies to everyone, doesn't it?
Yeah, and what I really want to get across to people is that this is not about giving you the answers. Look, I'm 33 years old. I don't have all the answers. I'm not a guru that can tell you exactly how to live your life, nor do I like try to be that. I don't ever want to claim to have all the answers for life. I'm on the journey. I'm wrestling with it. And what I can do and what the book does do is help you ask the right questions. It will help you wrestle with the questions so that you can come to your own answer, so that you can define what matters to you and build your life around those things.
Great. So, everyone, the name of the book, The Five Types of Wealth. And Sahil, what's the best way to follow you and everything that you're doing? You're doing a lot.
Yeah, having a unique name is helpful because I am at Sahil Bloom on every major platform where you can find me. And more information on the book is at the5typesofwealth.com, and you can buy it at any major bookstore. I always like supporting local bookstores, but you can get it on Amazon. You can get it anywhere books are sold.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, Sahil, in the area of physical wealth, I know you talk about this. Let me back up. Sahil, in the area of physical wealth, walk us through this visualization exercise of the 80th birthday party and how it relates to our physical wealth journey.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites from the book. So the idea is to close your eyes and imagine you are at your 80th birthday. There's people, all your friends and family are there, you're in some party room, and you're sitting there, and the music comes on, and it's your favorite song. Your kids get up, your family's up, they all start to dance, and they're calling you over to come and dance. Are you able to get up and dance with them, or are you stuck in a chair at age 80? And the idea is to think about what that future looks like. On the current path that you are on, are you going to be able to be dancing at your 80th birthday party? Or are you going to be relegated to a chair watching everyone else have fun? And I think it's such an interesting framing for, are you taking the actions today to make sure that you're able to get up and boogie your ass off when you're 80? Because I can't think of a better thing and a better proxy for like health and the actions that you're taking today than that. It's like, are you able to get up and spend time with the people you love doing something fun at your 80th birthday party?
That's great. You know, your philosophy though, it influenced me. This is a couple years ago. You've had I don't want to call it a health transformation, but I'll tell you, you certainly are lean and ripped and gotten in some great shape. I saw you got into more HIIT work or CrossFit work. I even was noticed you started doing cold plunges. You're only 33. You know, I'm the old guy, but why are you doing it right now? What's the message to younger people?
Well, look, I think health is one of the most naturally entropic forms of wealth, meaning it's naturally going to decay with age. And the investments that you make now are the ones that are fighting that natural decay. Health is like anything else. Your physical wealth is all about the daily investments. It's about doing small things daily. You don't need to do the like fancy, crazy workout or the fancy morning routine or the insane diet that people are trying to sell you on social media. You just need to do the boring basics, but do them every single day. And the boring basics are like move your body for 30 minutes every day. If you love rock climbing, do rock climbing. If you love weightlifting, do weightlifting. If you love running, do running, but move your body every single day. Nutritionally, just eat like 90% single ingredient, unprocessed foods.
Yes.
If you do that, you don't really need to worry about all that much else. It's very hard to go awry if you do that. And then recovery, sleep 7 hours a night. Like, when you're young, it's maybe a little harder. I probably slept 6 to 7. Now I'm definitely like 8 if I can do it if I'm not traveling. If you do those things, boring basics every single day, you'll be in great shape. And if you want to add from there because you have fun with it, like I just have fun with this stuff now. I love toying around with new routines, trying the cold plunge, doing the saunas. Like I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. If you want to add that, you can add it, but make sure you're just nailing those basic building blocks first.
That's good. That is really, really great advice. And you're right. When you do those things you just described, you're going to have a really good life. I mean, physically, you're going to have a really good life.
Yeah, and fitness is a catalyst. Physical wealth is a catalyst for everything else because, a lot of the things I write about in the book, it's about reassuming the power that you have in your life to create change. And it's about reminding yourself that you have that power. When you feel stuck, when you feel lost in life, you don't feel you have that power to take an action and to create a desired outcome. Fitness is the fastest way to remind yourself that you have that power. Because if you do some action for 30 straight days, if you like wake up and go work out for 30 straight days, you will notice a change in yourself, in your body, in how you feel. And that reminds you that you have that power. And that is something that has ripple effects into every area of your life. Because if you reassume that power, now you know, like, oh, I can work on a skill every day for a month and I'm going to get better at it and I'm going to have that skill. Or I can focus on relationships and I'm going to improve those relationships. You realize that you have the power to create positive change in your life, and that bleeds into everything that you do.
Great. Well, Sahil, it's been a lot of fun having you here. The 5 types of wealth. What would you hope that someone would think or do differently as a result of reading this incredible new book?
Just think more clearly about what you want in life, what a successful life looks like to you, and then use the guides that are in the book to actually just take one action, to start marching in that direction, to start taking and creating that change in your life.
What I admire about you, one of the things is you create such incredible content. And so on X, here's something you just put up a few days ago. Speaking of power, okay, your entire life will change the day you realize that it's all on you. No one is coming to save you. No one will fix your problems. No one will change your mindsets. No one will hand you the things you want in life. It's just you. It's all on you. There's a power in that. Some will hear that, Sahil, and think, holy crap, I didn't think of it that way. But now I'm panicking. But you flip the script and say, no, there's power in that philosophy. Tell me a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's power in that personal responsibility and accountability, right? It's sort of a harsh truth of life that, like, at the end of the day, you create your own outcomes. We all are born into different circumstances, different sets of conditions, different privileges, different struggles. But you are in control of the action that you take today. No matter where you are, no matter how dark it is, no matter like how bad of a spot you find yourself in, you're in control of the action you take today. And if you take one good action, you'll be in a slightly better place tomorrow. And then you can take another action and be in a slightly better place the next day. And that is the fundamental of all this. If you just accept that, you can either not accept that and choose to point blame and have a victim mentality, or you can choose to accept that challenge and just say that I'm just going to do the one thing today. And if you do that over and over and over again, you will end up in a good spot. It doesn't matter where you start.
Great. Sahil, last question for you. At the end of every podcast episode, I ask my guests, what is your I dare you challenge for all of us? It's the one thing that you would dare us to try or do differently to live a better life. I am dying for this. What do you think?
I would say call one person you love that you haven't talked to in a little bit too long this week, and just let them know you were thinking about them. For no reason, like just call and just catch up with that person. I think that is like one tiny action anyone can do, and the ripples that are created from that are incredible.
Good. That's a mic drop. That's a specific challenge, one we can do. So thank you, Sahil. And everyone, the name of the book, The 5 Types of Wealth, A Transformative Guide to Design Your Dream Life. It is dynamite. And straight away, Sahil, it's an honor to have you on the show. And thanks for pouring into your thoughts and your thoughts on how for us to design the life we want. It's great having you here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a joy.